show. It's the podcast. I'm here. I think I could say great friend. Definitely a person that I've known all my years in Houston, Texas. So I don't want to date him or myself, but I'm going to say there's at least 30 years. Just to sound nice, I'm going to say there's at least 20 plus years that we've been at least familiar with one another.
Yes.
Always in close proximity, from co-workers to friends, as a producer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Def Jam Blaster. I know these days you'll use your government name, Mr. William Ross, but to me, you're going to always be Def Jam Blaster. I don't know if you use another title these days. I have no clue, but to me, you're always Def Jam Blaster.
Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, Def Jam Blaster. You know, I tried to drop the Def Jam around the time that MC Hammer tried to drop MC and just go, and the public didn't accept it from either one of us. So I would do that, and labels would be like, Blaster, Def Jam Blaster? And I said, okay, you know what?
Just be whom you are.
As long as you know me. If you know me, then however you know me is good with me. So I tried to drop it. I tried to drop it because I didn't want issues with the label. But the label were some of the first people like, nah, keep it, son. That's crazy. Every time you on the radio, So I was like, okay, if this is how everybody, it was Rob Love. I don't know if you remember Rob Love. He used to work at Def Jam. He's like, nah, keep it, man, keep it.
No one ever said anything to you about the whole Def Jam thing?
No.
Not one time? Wow.
Not as far as the record label. That was it. I remember telling him, yeah, I'm trying to drop it, man. And he was like, nah, don't do it, man, don't do it. And
Russell would probably be like, oh, no, he promoting us.
That's what Rob Love said. That's what the people said at the time. And I didn't want it to seem like I was affiliated with the label because
I never thought that one time. I just
nobody did really,
but I think because that word
was
a word that we used in our youth.
Exactly. I could have been.
So I never overthought why you were calling yourself. I thought it was like, that was clever.
Well, you know, there's a story to it, but basically it's a sentence. Def Jam Blaster. I'm the good song player. Okay? You see what I'm saying? It's a phrase.
Yeah.
And so it could have been Dope Jam Blaster. It could have been Fresh Hit Blaster.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It could have been anything like that, but the guy who was writing a lyric said it as Def Jam Blaster, and the label wasn't that prominent at the time. They were one of many, you know. Tommy Boy, Sleeping Bag, all these other profiles.
So it actually was off of something that somebody said on record?
Somebody wrote. Yeah, my buddy K-Swiss, still around in Houston. He was an early artist that I worked with making beats and stuff. And it was one of those things like, you know, you used to always say what your name stood for. So I had the initials DJB already. And he said D is for Jeff, D is for Def, J stands for Jam, B is for Blaster. Now, how does that sound? You know, he kind of tried to make a little mention of it. And he did the same thing for his name, K-Swiss, and, you know, the other guy in the group. Mm-hmm. The other guy in the group was Marcus Wiley, as a matter of fact, rapping D.
What?
Got 7 or 8 songs on him. I can let you hear one day. But
wait. Comedian?
Yeah. Yes.
Listen, Blaster, you are so closely... Yeah. And we don't have that much time. We're going to probably have to end up doing a part 2 because you are so connected. And I don't think a lot of people realize this. Your history with music in Houston is so connected from comedian Marcus D. Wiley to Scarface. I don't know if people remember that part of your history. I think your history is left at he's a DJ.
Right.
And he's DJ this party, this event. They might know Noop.
Right.
That's it. But your production side, the group you're in the group called Nodos.
Right.
And I totally forgot about that until you mentioned your partner that was in the group who passed away, RP. So as I was starting this, I had an idea where I wanted to go. As we continue to talk, there are so many places that you can go with a person like you because your music knowledge is so crazy. Literally, this could be, okay, let's pick one record in hip-hop and we can talk about that.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about your history. We can talk about that. We can talk about you as a producer. And all of these things take a lot of time because it's just that deep. So I hate to scatter around. I hate to do this to the human being that watches this, which I appreciate, or listening to this, who want to hear your story.
Yeah.
But it's so intricate that...
It can go, like you said, it can go a lot of ways.
So I'm going to try to stay on some topics. But I have a funny feeling that we need to come back together and deal with the ancillary on another time. So what I'm gonna try to do now though is deal with Def Jam Blaster, who he is, and how he got to be. Because you've worked radio, you've worked clubs, you've been a traveling DJ, you've done the whole spectrum of being a popular DJ. You know, until you arrive to being the ultimate father and husband, which is probably, you would say, my greatest achievement yet.
I think so. Well, you know, I say that because I consciously decided to scale back on a lot of stuff.
You did, which was crazy. And so I'm going to start there. Let's start there. That you got to a place where you like, and I don't know if it was because of child or marriage, but you definitely kind of like moonwalked back a little bit out of this for, it seemed to be a minute. And then all of a sudden I start seeing your name pop up again where, Blaster's mixing out there again. Yeah. He's back on the scene as he picks and chooses at his liking. But what was the reason?
It was starting a family a little bit. I think, I mentioned earlier when we talked about the group No Dos, my best friend died from multiple sclerosis. And that was just one of those moments where you start to realize that the most valuable thing you have is time. You know, I was making great money, but when he was on his deathbed, I wanted more time. You know, not that he would have left money to me or anything, but you use that experience to say when somebody you love is about to be gone.
I've never talked to you about that, Blaster, which is incredible because I know you guys had just dropped a single, and then I don't think it was too long after that.
You know, we were working with Big Richard Simpson.
Big Richard, R.I.P.
Oh, man. Revolution Records. We had great times over there working with him. We were working with him, and we did a whole album, and we put out the 12-inch. We were one of the first album covers done by Pen and Pixel. If you can find an album cover for the Girls All Over cassette. The 12-inch didn't have a cover, but we were doing all that stuff, and when we put the 12-inch out is when he started to have symptoms. He was a student out at PV. I was at U of H, but we were still 100% making music all the time, and he just slowly started getting sick, so that kind of rearranged how things happened. We actually went back to that album, and I re-recorded 2 of the songs with my vocals. Richard was like, well, what if I can set up a show and he can't make it? Why don't you redo some of the songs? So, if you get the album, some of the songs are him rapping, some of them are me. And, that was just how that played out. He just continued to get more and more debilitated by the disease. And that just made me realize, it's all about the time. Everybody we want to be rich, we want to be famous, but looking at those personal moments, I was like, oh man, way more important. I wish I had 10 more years with him rather than we would have made $10 million selling records.
I get that. So. After when that happens, were you deterred or your feelings of music, did it change? Did you not want to be a part of the group? And I know years later you would start to release mixtapes.
Right.
Which you could totally control. It's totally you. But were you kind of like, I don't want to do this group thing before? And it's funny, I've never talked to you. Yeah. I don't remember us ever having a conversation about your group. And
I don't think we did. Because what would happen, we would talk about the Scarface or the 3-2 or stuff like that I was doing, the more popular artists. But no, I wasn't deterred from doing music. I was still, I
producer,
met you.
Yeah, I know you were still producing, but doing the group thing. And
well, here's what happened. I was only ever in, I guess 3 groups. The group with Marcus Wiley, and then...
That's a whole nother interview, dude. I got to talk about that.
And then 3-2 and I had a group called Private Identity. We were a group, and then No Dos. So kind of in that order. It went in that order.
It was you, 3-2, and who?
It was just me and 3-2.
Really?
A group called Private Identity.
And you were the DJ and he was the
DJ
rapper?
and producer, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did anything ever come from that?
Well, only recently. Now you've got all of these overseas companies that are interested in American hip-hop from the 90s, specifically sample-based production, and they find me on Instagram.
Really?
So we put out...
What's the curiosity there?
I don't know. I think, I've always heard that overseas, they like stuff from America. When you talk about the culture, specifically hip-hop, they know it's from here, so they want whatever they can get from here. Within the last month, got a message from somebody showing me an auction overseas that sold a 12-inch I produced for an artist named Billy DMC, one of my boys. He's from the Scarface era, DJ Action era. And they sold a copy of our 12-inch for $400.
What's the name of the record?
They don't even know. They just bought it. It's called Bad to the Bone. But it says unknown Southern United States hip-hop record.
Was it released?
No, this is just a 12-inch, an original 12-inch from 1988-89 that somebody got over there and they sold it in auction for $400.
I mean,
so
but was it a song that was released?
Yeah. No, it was released here.
Whose label?
It got played on the radio. It was on a label called RNA Records.
Who was that?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
A guy with an R and an A in their names. Frank Riley, I think, might have been one of the guys, but we recorded the record at Sugar Hill Studios here in Houston, and I think they worked up there, and so they were like, okay, yeah, we'll do a little imprint and put you guys out. So we did a cassette and a 12-inch. Cassette's got the cover.
Wow.
12-inch is just a regular 12-inch, but all that to say, I think there's always
I've
a
never
market.
heard you mention that group either.
There's a market overseas for that stuff. Yeah, Billy D might be how I met Brad. I'm not 100% sure how I met Scarface, but because he was a few years older. Mm-hmm. Because on Billy D's first 12-inch, DJ Action is on there talking a little bit in the intro and doing the cuts. Because he was a DJ also, so he did some of the scratching on Billy D's.
Do you know what ever
12-inch.
happened to any of those other people?
I talked to Billy D a couple days ago.
Did you really?
I just sent him a royalty payment because a company out of New Zealand is releasing a compilation. I think it's going to be like Def Jam Blaster presents The Lost and Found Volume 1 of a whole bunch of artists that I produced over the years that never got released. And they were like, man, we like this sound that you had with 3-2 and Big Mike. Do you have more stuff? I was like, yeah, I got a bunch of stuff. And so they sent me the money, and so I'm paying all the people, sending them their royalties. So yeah, I talked to Billy D within the last 48 hours.
Wow. Now, Billy D was one of the prominent, wasn't he one of the prominent MCs here?
He kind of was, yeah. He was.
What do you in your summation, what happened? Did Scarface and Ghetto Boys just blow up so fast that some of the other guys that seemed like they were on maybe a little, and maybe they weren't, maybe it was all at the same time. But I do remember when I first moved here to Houston in 92, 93, I heard the name Billy D a lot.
Yeah.
And over the years, some of these people, I think they get missed in the hip-hop's history.
They do.
As the story gets
told. And
told.
that's why I like to say their names, so at least. And thank you for having me on here to talk about stuff like this, because I do think it's important for us to document this stuff.
It needs to be.
And so, yeah, what I think happened, I think when you look at the years, if you look at 87, 88, 89, you got a fast shift in the sound of hip-hop music. And, somebody like Billy D had a particular sound. He was a little more like a Fresh Prince kind of sound, not too aggressive sound. And even though Bad to the Bone was kind of a diss record, he still didn't sound like a hardcore rapper.
I understand what you mean.
And so that was what was starting to come in. You get 87, 88, now you got NWA, you got people coming out, the sound is shifting. And so the sound that we had as a group, it's all 808s. This is, the keys from the 808 drum machine. Me and Billy D stuff is all drum machine based with some scratching. That sound was shifting. Whereas when I started
I never thought about that. You're right. Between 86
a lot of changes took place.
Before, right, to 89, and a lot of stuff changed that.
What's interesting, you can take a record from one artist and hear the shift on the same album. You can take, if you get the 12-inch for LL Cool J, Rock the Bells, there's the original version on the B side and then the version we all know on the A side. And it sounds like, okay, one sounds like, okay, this is a Curtis Blow song, and the other one sounds like LL Cool J that we know on the same record.
Yeah.
So it was such a fast shift in the sound that I think
some people got left behind.
Yeah, I think, the music that he and I was making, just it wasn't the style anymore. So
let me ask you this.
And he has I love all the stuff that we did, but.
The stuff that you were doing with Scarface, did you imagine that Scarface would be who he became? Did you see that then? Did you, early on, like, oh, he's special and maybe a little different than some of the other guys?
Not really, because who are the other guys? I'm working with Scarface. I'm working with 3-2. I'm working with Billy D. they were all good.
These are premier.
These were all great MCs, so I didn't think too much of it at the time because all the guys I was working with sounded really good to me at the time. So, you know, he's a smart guy, though, so he made a lot of crucial decisions early on that put him in different places rather than a Billy D or rather than 3-2 at the time. Now, 3-2 started making some of those same decisions that got him, you know, where he needed to go. But I think that was the thing that really set him apart.
I don't know how far in detail you can go in that, but me and you had a conversation offline, so to speak, a while back, a couple of weeks ago, maybe even months now, about, you know, Scarface made a decision because there's an album cover. I want to say it was a Shortstop record.
Yes.
On this record.
Shout out to Lil Troy. Lil Troy Shortstop.
On this record.
I got so many Lil Troy stories.
You're the only, I think there's some people on there holding guns and all kind of other things. I just know in particular on that album, you were not showcasing a firearm.
Yes.
You made it a point not to make sure you were carrying a firearm.
So we get to the photo shoot, and Lil Troy pops the trunk, and
what's the album cover for?
It's the 12-inch for a song called Scarface.
Okay.
By the artist DJ Action at the time. He was not going by the name Scarface. So we get to the location, and he pops the trunk, and all the props are in there. Grab a gold chain. You know, do you want a handgun? Do you want a machine gun? Whatever you want. Do you want the 12 gauge? It's full of guns. And so,
I don't know if Troy would want you to tell that story.
Me and 3-2 rode there together. We were friends, so we rode there together. He rode with me, and you know, he's kind of laughing. And, what gun you gonna get, Will? And and I was like, man, my mama's gonna see this. I'm not holding a gun, man. I can't do it. I'm more scared of what she might do to me than, you know, people thinking I'm a tough guy or something. So I did not have a gun for the album cover photo. I was like, I can't do it. People are gonna see this, you know. So
you did.
That was the story of the photo, at least. But Lil Troy, he had everything in there you could want. Probably had hand grenades in there. Lil Troy is for real. Shout out to Lil Troy, and thanks to Lil Troy. I've told him this before, but I thanked him later in life. Like, hey man, thanks for kind of protecting me. He's like, well, I could tell, you know, you was a suburb kid. But it was accurate. It was accurate. I was from the nice Mo City.
He said the nice.
Where everybody had a basketball goal in the front yard and a dog in the backyard. And it was just a nice place to be. And he recognized that about me. And so he always made sure that I was not around anything too crazy.
Really?
He told me that later, and I was like, I appreciate that you saw that. I wasn't built for that. I'm making music. I'm not a tough guy. I'm not a gangster.
Yeah, you were around a lot of people at that time, you know.
We had an incident at Shortstop Records over in Scott and Lydia, where we used to be, you know, right there in 3rd Ward. Somebody came in, kicked the door in one day while me, Troy, and 3-2 were there, and held us at gunpoint.
What?
And
okay, I'm learning some new stories today for sure.
You know, I'm naturally terrified. And he tells us this, okay, because we made it, we survived it, but it was not funny at the time. But so me and 3-2, he got us on our knees, hands behind our head, you know, and Lil Troy's just looking at the dude. He walks over to his desk and goes pull out his gun, and walks up to the guy and puts his gun in his face. So this is like some.
This is crazy.
John Travolta face-off type. Two dudes with guns 3 inches from each other's face.
Wow.
And Troy just kind of talked him down. Like, you ain't gonna do nothing. You know, Troy put him in his place, man. And, you know, it's burned into my memory. And, you know, I was very shook up after that. So I told him, hey, man, you know, I know more stuff was going on, and you know, there would be times he'd tell me, don't come around today, you know, because we would do a lot of pre-production over there. So he's like, don't come today. Or even if we were out somewhere doing a show or something, he would always know to keep me kind of sequestered from stuff. Because he could tell I wasn't trying to be.
He said sequestered.
He could tell I wasn't trying to be a tough guy, so he kept me away from stuff.
Isn't that kind of funny to be in a very male Not now. It seems like the ladies have taken over the industry now, which I love it to death. A lot of them should have had the opportunity to take over years ago, but that's a whole nother story. But to be around all this male bravado at any time, were you ever disillusioned by all this, I don't want to call it tough guy acting, because I think these are real acts. It's not somebody trying to be a tough guy. It's not these guys trying to be gangsters. This is the lifestyle that they live, and it's just unfolding and starting to become a part of the music now. Because rappers used to keep it separated, as you remember. I know you remember.
Yes. The thing to me was, okay, Lil Troy was really doing what he was doing. His people that were with him, they weren't trying to rap. The rappers, we were actors, we were portraying, writing stories. If you listen to the song Scarface, it's a great story. It's a story. It's like a cinematic thing in 3 minutes. He takes you through a whole journey of, a day or so in the life of this character, of the Scarface character. So that's what we were doing. We were just being creative, and if that creativity involved some gangster stuff, okay, then, that's what it was for that session, but we were not at that point trying to be like that. We were around the guys who were really like that. And so there was a clear distinction.
When you started seeing that transition in the music, your thoughts were what? Because some of it is not real. Well, and what I mean by that, some of those rappers and the stuff that they're saying is not necessarily real.
I assumed that none of it was real because, and you use somebody like Dr. Dre as an example. I liked all the stuff that he did, World Class Wrecking Crew. So when he, became The Chronic, I thought that was just a character. I was like, okay, well, I know he made, slow songs and he made these other, and all that stuff was jamming. The Wrecking Crew, Surgery, Juice, all those electro kind of sounding songs. So I just said, okay, this is just another creative, thing. But over time, it became, wow, these guys are really trying to be this stuff. I can't hang around everybody like I used to because now they're really trying to do the stuff they were writing songs about.
Yeah.
So
did it become less enjoyable for you to watch that transformation happen?
Not really at the time, honestly. It was still cool. I just was like, oh, okay. Y'all are actually smoking weed now. Well, I can't. Yeah, I'm not coming to hang out now. It was not disappointing at the time. Because I said, okay, well, this is just a progression. I guess it's a phase. Maybe things will change to something else.
Looking back now as an adult, your thoughts are what on that whole? Because you had the opportunity to watch the transformation.
It was my first thought is it was unfair pressure put on us as hip hop artists. We should not have had to really be living that stuff because just if you use the example of Scarface, nobody expected Al Pacino to really be Scarface in real life. Why do we have to be really hard because we wrote these songs that are like that? Or,
So who do you think how did you think that transformation, again, happened? Like, that's a great point you made. Yeah. Like, we have to become what we're actually rapping and be true to those lyrics.
I thought it was unfair. I don't know.
Who do you think, where does it come from? Was it the public? Was it record companies? Was it executives? What, in your summation?
I always looked at it as NWA kind of, made it so cool to be a gangster. And we don't know if that's real or not, but once that kind of became what everybody loved, because we all loved it. It was, man, this is incredible music. I mean, Dre is killing it. Cube is great. Ren is, everything is so good that you just kind of, especially as a young person, you just kind of start to kind of acclimate into that.
I always thought that there was a dollar amount that was put on that change. And what I mean by that is we have been going away without that, LL, Kumo, KRS, and even Public Enemy to some degree. Not to some degree, to a full degree. And then when people learned that NWA came out and they were selling records, didn't need radio, didn't need all that, and they were starting to bring bags home, people were like, oh, I'm more concerned about this bag than if the radio is playing me and all that. So if this is what's going to make money, this is what we're going to have to be.
Right. And so, yes, I absolutely 100% agree with that because, maybe at first they just putting the record out because it's what they wanted to do. But like you said, once you see, okay, this is what sells, it's like Hollywood Shuffle, the movie with Robert Townsend. They're like, okay, Eddie Murphy's hired. We're looking for an Eddie Murphy type. Now every audition wants an Eddie Murphy type character. Okay, NWA blows up. Every record label wants the next NWA. And yeah, it became about money. And so that became the dominant culture of the music for quite a while. We used to have a balance. Even when NWA came out, you still had a great Public Enemy album. So you could be like, ooh, okay, I just killed everybody on this album. Let me go over here and listen to some Malcolm X. And, you know what I'm saying? You could cleanse your palate, you know? Or you could throw on a backpack with Tribe Called Quest or De La Soul. You had options, and so you could stay well-rounded. But that changed once money, the money increased. So it's like, whatever's hot, now everything has to be like that. And I think as young people, we can't forget the psychology of it. As young people, you tend to kind of emulate your surroundings, even if you're not thinking about it. When the Huxtables was the number one family in America, everybody stood up a little taller and tried to be a little more knowledgeable about blackness and culture and jazz. And
go to black universities.
Yes, you wanted to go to an HBCU.
And I did.
And that was a big influence on us. And the music is the same way. So whatever becomes the popular culture for young people, you kind of lean into it. I never wanted to be a gangster for real, but I probably got, pictures acting silly, trying to throw up fake gang signs or whatever, because you're a kid, you know, and that's what happens. You go into whatever's popular. So
wow. At some point, I don't know if you stayed a producer the whole time during that time. When it seems like you started slowing down on the production, especially after your homeboy died in the group. And I'm seeing now more Blaster, the DJ. Is that on purpose, or that's just things sometimes happen?
What happened on the production side was the DJing just really started blowing up. Getting on the radio in 91, 92, then being in college at that same time.
And that wasn't a goal of yours, was it? It was it was completely accidental.
No. Yeah, this was all just taking advantage of opportunities. Seeing an opportunity do it. All that stuff I was doing was seeing opportunities, seeing a lane and taking it and just going. Don't look back, just go. Because I was still doing as much production as I was DJing parties.
Okay.
I would say that, in junior high and high school, guys are coming home practicing free throws. I'm going in there practicing a scratch, making a beat. College, guys are, same thing. They're going out, joining the sports teams. I'm at home making mixtapes, trying to say, okay, how can I, what's something cool I can do, next time I go DJ. So I was really just taking all the opportunities as I saw them come. And the DJing thing is a public thing that thousands of people at one time see, or hundreds of thousands hear on the radio. So that became what I was more known for. They don't know the behind-the-scenes stuff. Because I was still putting out records. I was doing projects with you. I was doing stuff with Big Mello, doing all kind of stuff with Crazy C. But, unless you're that guy that reads the credits, you're not gonna realize that I was on there.
Yeah,
you're gonna buy my mixtape. And you're going to buy that Willie D album, but you don't know that I'm on that album doing stuff. You're getting that Big Mello album. You don't know that I'm on there, doing stuff with Crazy C.
Right.
Wu-Tang Clan, stuff like that. These remixes that C was doing. I was there with all of that stuff. But I was seen more publicly as the DJ. So that's what happened. I never stopped doing production, but when the styles changed, it wasn't my sound anymore. When the sound got slower, more synthesizer-based, almost R&B. When we started to get more into our recognizable Southern and Houston in particular sound, that was I couldn't do that. I was still chopping up samples like Primo or Pete Rock. I couldn't make those
interesting
synthesizer beats like that.
So
you think all the songs I did with you? They're all based on samples.
They are.
We get somebody, Bear Wolf or somebody to play over it.
But it's essentially a sample. Yeah.
Everything is samples.
So, and I have to ask this. Is it you're saying to yourself, I refuse to make the transition, or this is where I was comfortable at, and so I'm going to stay here, and if it's going to make this transition, I don't want to be down with it?
What I think looking back was I didn't appreciate the sound. I didn't like it as much. And
that's very honest of you to say that.
And so I would have to say,
I appreciate that.
You know, on the one side, I'm chopping up a Herbie Hancock song and making samples and doing that, or do I just want to turn on the keyboard and press the keys and that wasn't me. I saw the art form and I appreciated the art form of give me this jigsaw puzzle that's all put together. Now I'm going to rearrange these pieces and make a new picture. That was more fun to me, to rearrange something that was already there, to take something that was one way and now look at it from this direction. I was not the guy that just wanted to sit down and think of a melody. And I had all the equipment, and I would say, okay, well, let me try to make one of these beats. And I was like, I not only do not enjoy it, but it's not good. Probably because I don't enjoy it. They don't sound good.
Wow.
You know, and a couple of people used a couple of those beats, and I was like, okay, I can't give people these kind of beat tapes with these things on them because this is not me. And so that's what it was. The industry changed, and I couldn't change with it. I would have if I genuinely liked it.
No, are you sure you're not saying that you didn't? It's not that you couldn't. You wouldn't change.
I would have. If I genuinely liked the new sounds, I would have been right there with it. Like, all right, no more samples.
But you didn't appreciate
stuff.
The new sound.
But when I would hear the stuff, I was like, this sounds like I'm waiting for Anita Baker to start singing over this track. How is this a rap song? That was just me. I couldn't. And you don't want to be fake.
I appreciate your honesty.
I don't want to be fake and be like, all right, I love this. Yeah, let me make the beat like that. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it because I couldn't get into it. I would hear myself going through 1,000 cents, and I couldn't do it.
I love that somebody would take a Anita Baker and make. To me, that was genius when I would hear that stuff. To be honest with you, during that time,
it was very creative.
To hear, even to make it Houston, to hear DMD take I'll Be Sure.
Yeah.
And
like, night and day. Yeah.
Voila.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of that? It's obvious. I should have thought of that. And turn around and make this incredible and add the right 808s and the right drum track. So I was really appreciating the music. That's what I appreciated about the South. That's what I appreciated about Houston and even the West Coast. I was really more into the melodic sounds of hip hop, even though that was the more gangsterish of the era.
Yeah.
I love Tribe and how Q-Tip would find these incredible Ahmad Jamal samples or whatever he would find and put these songs together. But it was something about, who would have thought about just taking this R&B record, putting some drums behind it, resampling it, speed it up, slow it down, and make this song. I thought that was genius.
But even that's basically a sample.
It is.
He replayed it, but he replayed it so close to the original that it's basically, for all listening purposes, it's a sample of a popular song.
It is.
And it's got a little tempo to it. It might be in the 90 BPM range.
Right.
I'm talking about when the stuff got down to like the 70s. I couldn't do it. I was like, this is a love song.
I get it from a DJ.
I need to hear Teddy Pendergrass come on this beat. This is so slow and beautiful and melodic, like you're saying, and I love those songs.
I get it.
It was a fault in me as a music lover that I could not make the mental transition as a producer to say, I would have had to say, yeah, I'm gonna go in here and make a song for, like I said, Anita Baker. And then just say, well, somebody's just gonna rap over it instead. I just couldn't do it, and I didn't want to, to consider yourself an artist. I didn't want to be fake about it and say, well, yeah, I'm just gonna do it just to try to still get placements. I just said, well, everything goes in cycles. Maybe it'll come back around in 10, 20 years where it'll get back to whatever. But at that point, so much more stuff was happening on the DJ side that it didn't matter anymore. I was like, well, okay, the DJ stuff is just as successful as the music stuff, producing music could have been. And so I was okay. I never felt, there would be times where, and again, I love and appreciate Crazy C for always bringing me along, letting me ride his coattails. Because he would still call me like, hey man, I got this project. I'd be like, yes, I'll be there. But it was no longer my focus because I was like, I can't make those sounds that people want now. So just let it go.
So I'm going to move up a little bit because to me, here in Houston, there were other mixtapes happening. Obviously, you got Screw tapes and Michael Watts, Swishahouse tapes. But in the true style of songs being mixed together, mixtapes. You started doing that. I don't even know if you did this before they put out the screw tapes or what. I can't remember, Blast, so you're going to have to remind me. But I know that you had a few very successful mixtapes that you put out.
Yes.
Talk to me about that a little bit, that transition where you decided, I'm going to just make a mixtape. I'm going to drop this. I'm going to put my own cover on it. I mean, at that particular time, to me, it was a crazy idea and concept. And then you guys were spending a little money because I think you were doing these with Aggravated. Mm-hmm. And y'all had and nobody's going to remember this, but you had the real fly plastic covers for the CDs.
Q-packs. Those were called Q-packs.
Oh, and they were expensive. They were more expensive than your usual.
I think only us and Master P had those at the time.
I think so. I think so.
And we got in a little trouble behind that with Master P. We can get to that.
Really?
Not bad, but, we got a phone call, and me being that nerdy suburban kid, I was like, you ain't got to write it down. Phone call will suffice. Thank you. Please don't write my name on any official documents concerning this.
Did he have a like?
Well, the issue was it's a mixtape, so we're using other people's songs. His song starts off Men on Wax.
Oh wow.
We remix it a little with other beats.
That was the first one.
That's the first track on there, and
what was that mixtape called? Because there was at least 3 or 4.
That one was
wasn't
Men
it?
on Wax.
Men on Wax. That was probably, was it your biggest?
No, the biggest was called Bounce.
Really?
Yeah, the biggest was called Bounce.
That was like the 4th one or something.
That was
wasn't
the 3rd or 4th one. Yeah, at least.
Wow.
That was the biggest selling.
I didn't know that. I thought that first because y'all was on there like the Men in Black.
We did the Men in Black. It was a parody of the cover.
Did you expect it to sell like that? Because rumor was that it did pretty good.
I did, because I kind of went in with that philosophy of, okay, I'm kind of on top of the DJ scene. I'm going to parlay this into something else. I'm just going to keep them. So we were throwing parties at the same time. We were doing the Forum. We had a huge promotion company with the Forum. My buddy TJ, one of my frat brothers, Anson, me, and Aggravated. And we dominated the whole market of party promotion. So that's going on. We're on the radio. Everything I'm doing is great at the time. I was like, I've figured out how to be successful at these things that I want to do. So we thought it was going to be successful. We did. And, shout out to the guys, Red Bean Records, Vaughn Butler, R.I.P., he passed away, and my buddy Will Hudgens. They approached me with the idea. They were like, man.
I thought Red Bean was all you. I didn't know that.
No,
that's new
everything I
information.
did. At some point I learned early on, smart partnerships are good.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Smart partnerships.
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
just any partnership.
Smart partnership.
A lot of people will approach you with ideas. You know that. But ones that are coming from the right person and sound right, because they saw the same thing. Man, you're killing this, you're killing that. We should do a record label. I was like, okay, I'm listening. And then, they said we should start off just doing mixtapes. And I was like, okay, I know what to do. I know how to do that. I'll go 4-track some stuff. And they said, but we want to do them for real. This is hip hop. So I was like, I'm with it. They were like, yeah, we're going to, really set up a real barcode and do everything official, except permission to use the songs. But that's the hip hop side. We're like, man, that's what DJs do. We make mixtapes. Mm-hmm. I had already been making mixtapes, but it was just cassettes. So they were
y'all put them out there in mass distribution. They were in record stores.
Because what other people would do was do burned CDs in a little clear jewel case with a fake barcode.
They would, but you all went the next step.
We were like,
it looked like it was its own album.
We registered the barcodes for real, and we did everything real pressing plants, real distributors. We made one sheets. We made promo cassettes to give. So we do a party. There's 800 people there. We're handing out 800 5-minute cassettes, sampler cassette of the mixtape. We're handing out full color glossy flyers. People were still using regular Kinko's flyers. The guys who approached me owned a company called The Color Box, and they did all the color flyers for the city of Houston. If somebody had a color flyer in 1995, 96, 97, a color business card, they got it from them. So these were smart partnerships. They already had the inroads for all the artwork and the graphics and the manufacturing on that side. I was the guy that would go home and get the 8-track out and make the mix. It was just a no-brainer. Like, yeah, let's do it. So the first one was called The Blaster Strikes Back. So a takeoff of Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars cover, that was that one. And then, when we did Men on Wax, that's when it really blew up. Because The Blaster Strikes Back did well. And the philosophy we had at the time was, okay, we're going to come up with a number and we're not going to sell more than this number to try to mitigate the possibility of somebody wanting to sue us for real, hard, Because we always got messages.
I like the way you put that.
We got messages.
Messages.
And I would always accept the message and act accordingly. So we would set number limits. Okay, we're only going to sell this many of each one. And each title that came out, we would raise that number higher and higher because we were like, if they're trying to hand you a box full of money, legally you want to accept it. So working with Southwest Wholesale here, Robert Gilliman and those guys, we would just, keep cranking them out. And each CD would have the next CD already on the inside. We'd come up with 10 ideas. So,
start promoting the next one.
So when you open this one, coming next is Men on Wax. You open Men on Wax, coming next is Bounce. So we always had the next one.
I don't remember the
Bounce
out. Series.
Bounce, it was another kind of parody cover of the Fabric Softener.
I do remember that. Yes, I do. I lied. I do remember that. Yes, I do. I do remember. Yes, I do remember that.
That was our biggest selling one because it had all the Louisiana bounce music on it that you couldn't find anywhere.
Wow.
Unless you heard me playing it on the radio or at a party, you weren't going to go in the store and find these records. I had relationships with as we all would have it in the radio station, but I had relationships with those DJs because they knew, with those artists, because they knew I was DJing all the college parties and that everybody was loving all this music. And so they made sure I had all the records.
Wow.
And so we actually, for that one, subcontracted and got a DJ Al, out of Louisiana. Because even though I had the records, we were like, man, let's get a guy that's from there. He's going to have stuff that I don't even have. Because the first big hit called Where They At was by T. Tucker, and it was only available on a cassette. So we were like...
Didn't know that.
We were like, if stuff like this is out there, I don't know about it. We need to get somebody who's out there right now who may know more stuff. And he did know more stuff, and so he did that mix. I just did the intro, vocal, talking, introducing it, but...
Blaster, didn't you all do a Kappa Beach Party?
We did. We did a Beach Party 98.
And a video.
Yes. The video resulted in some serious litigation, serious legal problems, yes.
I don't remember that.
To the point now where this Freaknik thing is going on.
I was about to ask you about that because before Freaknik, you all, I thought that this was a pretty documented deal on the Kappa Beach Party.
It was. Like I said, we had a big legal problem with some of the people that were on the video, and it shut it down. I don't know if you remember a distributor that was called Big Easy.
I do.
They were the distributor.
They were huge.
They just went out of business as a result of the problems. They shut down.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was we had big problems with that video. But we also had the accompanying CD, which sold well also.
What is your thoughts on this whole Freaknik thing? Side note.
I was there, but
would you be ashamed if some video came out, and I'm not saying because I doubt very seriously that you have done anything sideways, but and particularly on camera. But there were a lot of people, men and women, who did some pretty sideways things. Yeah. How would you feel about that now if you were one of those individuals? Because I know that some people are in a lawsuit phase as far as some of the women. I heard 5 women are trying to sue Jermaine Dupri and
to prevent it from coming out.
Jermaine Dupri and
Luke, maybe?
Yeah, Luke. Yeah, Luke. Doing this Freaknik deal.
I understand it. I mean, there's a compassionate side of me that, we didn't grow up with everybody having an HD camera in their pocket. So you think that you do something like that and it's lost in the ether. After it's over, it's over. We all have a memory of it, and that's it. And, I can understand it. I mean, I saw what we were all doing out there.
I saw some things that, no disrespect, I know you're a noob, but I saw some stuff at the Kappa Beach Party. I heard stuff that happened at Freaknik. I don't think we missed anything.
No. As far as down here, no.
Action-wise and the things, I mean, look, I can tell you some of the stuff that I saw in front of me that was...
To try to keep it as diplomatic as possible, the stuff that went on in Kappa Beach Party would be much worse to come out as a documentary than the Freaknik stuff.
Wow.
Because we're young college guys, man. We're frat guys. We're organizing this to be as raunchy as we can. And it was as raunchy as we wanted it to be. So it was. So that would be much. Whereas Freaknik wasn't organized to be raunchy.
But I thought it started off as a fraternal thing, like a fraternal picnic, and it kept growing year after year after year.
That is my understanding also.
Okay.
And being down there and going through the heart of everything, yeah, you'd have isolated spots of, okay, somebody just wilding out in the street or whatever was going on. But, yeah, whereas, like I said, the stuff that were going at...
But theirs got shut down. I don't remember Kappa Beach Party ever really being shut down. It seemed like over time it just... What happened.
I made a post recently on Facebook with a photo, and I said, I made a couple of posts referencing Kappa Beach Party, and I said, a lot of y'all didn't go to the Kappa Beach Party. Y'all went to the Kappa, and there's a difference. Because the Kappa Beach Party, you'd see all the Kappas there. You'd see the college people and a lot of the girls, and we're acting wild or whatever. But I would be there in some of the years DJing from one of the U-Hauls. It was two.
Definitely.
It would always be two
Yes.
U-Hauls. That was the thing. If you saw the U-Hauls, you were at the beach party. Otherwise, you were just at the Kappa, which is what everybody else called it, because they didn't even. These were no longer even college affiliated people. These were just people who heard about it and came down, and it took on a whole nother thing. That was not necessarily the Kappa Beach Party, and so, different experiences, took place. And it did get shut down because it got so big.
That's why I thought over time what happened. It was just so huge that it was uncontrollable. Not that really bad things happened, but that it was so this is going from my memory, that it was so huge that there was no possible way for this town to contain, because it happened in G-Town. There was no way for them to contain these thousands upon thousands,
hundreds of thousands
of young people taking over this island.
And so when that happens, now you have liability issues. And so speaking from the fraternity standpoint, we're having a party with some hundreds of people down on East Beach. But the other 150,000 people that are in Galveston who are saying they're at Kappa Beach Party and are really not, whatever they're up to,
it's causing problems.
It's coming back on us.
Yeah.
People are coming back to the fraternity and having complaints and filing grievances, and things are going on. People have gotten hurt, and it had nothing to do with us.
Right.
They were not at our party.
Right.
And so it became such a huge liability that the fraternity shut us down. They came to town. And I was one of the people that they spoke with, and they were like, we have to stop this because lawsuits and things is going to get out of control, and we just have to stop it. So it officially shut down 95, 96.
Really? It was still going down every year. It kept going.
Because it became the Kappa. It was not.
Because I know we there at 99, 2000, maybe 2001.
Yeah, it kept going.
Yeah, there's a couple of years where we don't start seeing a slowdown to maybe the early 2000s.
It turns into the Texas Beach Party or something.
Yeah.
So, but it got.
I didn't know that
the
it ended
Kappa
that
Party.
soon. Yeah,
the Kappa Party official stuff shut down in like 95, 96.
Did not even realize that.
But the momentum was so huge.
Crazy.
That it just kept going for. And I was still going and DJing. People
we were still calling it the Kappa.
And that's what I said. And that's why I said people went to the Kappa.
There's been mixtapes. There's famous mixtapes made by yours truly. Not yours truly, but Chameleonaire, Paul Wall, Slim Thug. And it's called the Kappa. It's Kappa 99.
Right.
It's one of their biggest mixtapes ever.
Right.
And you're saying we absolutely had nothing to do with that.
That was not the Kappa Beach Party, but that was the thing that just became the Kappa.
Yeah, it was crazy though.
Because we used to be like, do people even know what word Kappa is referring to? It doesn't matter, but it's just when a thing takes a life of its own.
And it did.
And it becomes like you say Kleenex for facial tissue. You just say the Kappa for this thing. You don't even understand. It's a brand name. You don't even realize that's a brand name. Oh, go Xerox this for me. Okay, that's a brand name. We're going to the Kappa. Do you realize that that's a brand name? They didn't realize it. It just became a common phrase. So,
do you have any particular feeling about that? Because this is a creation of you and a lot of your friends.
Well, I'll say they created it in the 80s. I just was fortunate to be able to come in.
Was it going on that long?
Yeah. It was always a collegiate thing.
Did
it was
not realize.
always a collegiate thing.
Really? That they did in Galveston?
That they did in Galveston. The chapter we nicknamed the Ray-Ban Noops from Lamar University would come down.
I did not know that.
And they were the guys that would always do it. And they would I wasn't a Kappa until 93, so they would have other DJs before then, but once I pledged, anything Kappa related, I was doing it. So
Absolutely.
Starting at that point is when I would DJ down there. I would drive one of the U-Hauls down there and DJ the party. So, it's just one of those things that happens, man. I mean, it's cool that, we became a part of history in that manner. The name Kappa is a part of Texas history.
I think if anyone pulls out video and do a comparison, maybe I can't say that because I wasn't at Freaknik.
And I only went 1 year to Freaknik. I was like, I gotta go once because we know it's this huge thing. So I went. I went to 94.
Okay.
I went in 94.
I just feel like I didn't miss all the things I heard about Freaknik.
Took place down here.
I feel like I saw. I'm just gonna leave it there. I don't want to say if it was worse or bad.
Yeah.
I saw some things that were truly incredible.
Yeah.
Take that anyone as you must.
Yeah. It was young people doing young people stuff, man.
I think it's sad that I think this is where we live in a society where women are held to one standard and men are. I think
we may not even be held to a standard.
Well, I mean, because I know that these women, they feel like they got these prestigious jobs now, and they could be looked at in a particular light. But what about the man who was taking his?
Well, yeah, it's a double standard.
Definitely,
it's a double standard.
And I hate that. And I hate that for them.
You're a pimp. A lady that does that, and that's the whole world. Unfortunately,
because I would hate if I was one of those guys that were out there and you saw me doing certain things. I would be just as ashamed if my family saw that as a guy.
Well, yeah, that's me with the gun on the Scarface cover. I was like, I'm already thinking that way. Like, no, I can't. No, not on camera. So, yeah. But no, you're right. It's a double standard. It's unfair. And I think it's the whole world. It's not just America. The whole world, kind of treats women that way and holds women to much higher standards than they hold us to. So
I'm gonna stop right here, y'all. This is going to be our part one. Me and Blaster are not done. So I've never done this. This is my first time ever doing I'm going to stop right here, and we got more to come in the next episode. So stick around because there's just too much information with Blaster. So I got at least that stuff done, and now I want to dig into some other stuff, Def Jam Blaster as well. So if we can do that, man. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Love this guy.
I appreciate you having me, man. Thank you.
We're going to really dig into some hip-hop on the next episode. But this was fun. This first one, I just know we can go in so many different directions. And I'm scared that one thing could have us drift.
Well, we kind of, you knew that was going to happen.
I did. Yeah. But I want them to get some good information. I want them to just be able to take it all in. Usually I'll do 2 hours in one batch. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do that. let them get this piece, and then we'll give them another piece. So I appreciate that, y'all. More Blasters coming up right here on the Mad Hatter Show podcast. Appreciate you.
My pleasure.